You've got me some more again today. But it is the first Sunday of our summer holidays, and as I said, our kids are in with us as adults, which is great because we're going to hear a bit of Jesus' teaching, which is for all of us. And we've got some 4 short stories this morning, 4 pictures that are really easy for children to grasp. And as is the way with a lot of what Jesus says, it's really easy for the children to grasp, which means us adults could probably ponder them for the rest of our lives and continue to plumb the depths of what Jesus says. So we're going to hear those in a moment. I do have a blanket at the front here. I'm going to invite any of our children with their adults, if they want to come and sit up at the front. They can do, there is some space for them. It might be worth your while doing that, but if you are fine wherever you are sat, that is absolutely fine as well. And again, if you don't have a child with you and you want to come and sit up the front with me, then you're very welcome to do that as well if you're just an adult on your own. So I'll give you a moment just to think about that as the children see if they're going to move. Yes, some of them hesitant. Come on, you can. The nearer you are to me, the sooner you will get sweets. That's just putting that out there, okay? Yeah, I see some of the adults moving now. So we're going to look at what Jesus says this morning. You've got these 4 short parables. I need to get my clicker. If you've got your Bibles, why don't you open them? It's at Matthew 13 with verses 31 to 33 and then 44 to 46. 13, 31 to 33 and 44 to 46 is all going to be on the screen for us. And when it comes up on the screen, I'm going to encourage us, should we read it all together? Yeah? We're going to do it like that today. So let's see if this is going to come. This is what Jesus says. If you can read it, if you can see it. Jesus says, all together now, he told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. He told them still another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 30 kilograms of flour until it worked all through the dough. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Jesus often taught in these stories, in these parables, and spoke to people in them. Short stories, short pictures, which help us understand something about God and his kingdom. Sometimes Jesus exaggerates things in his stories, in his parables, okay? Sometimes the parts of the story seem strange or surprising. And so we shouldn't always look to try and work out every single tiny detail, make it all try and fit together. Instead, we need to ask, what is the main thing that Jesus wants us to see? So, today, children, how many short parables have we had? 4. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Well done. 4. It's good. We're going to work on that maths before secondary school, okay? Sometimes Jesus exaggerates these stories. In these 4 stories, we get a little bit of that. We have 2 that are about growth and growth in the kingdom of heaven. 2 that are about the value and the worth of the kingdom of heaven. And in all 4, it contains a surprise. So here's the question I want us to think about this morning. Where are you being surprised by the kingdom of heaven? Where are you being surprised by the kingdom of heaven? When Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven, I'm going to say this to the children, but make sure adults that they're listening. When Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven, he doesn't simply mean the place where we go to when we die, okay? He is talking about the kingdom of heaven is wherever God is king. Wherever God rules and reigns, it's wherever God's will is being done and God's love is being received and shared, okay? And Jesus says that this kingdom can be surprising, okay? So let's get into those parables. Parable one. This is about the mustard seed, okay? So who can see the picture on the screen? Ariel, can you see the picture? So on the left there, we have mustard seeds, okay? And on the right there, we have a great big tree. Now, this is where we don't go into the finer details. Was Jesus talking about these specific seeds? Do those seeds grow into the biggest tree that there ever is? Not really sure. Not really the point. What Jesus is talking about is something tiny and something small becoming massive, okay? That is our big thing from Jesus here, okay? But Jesus was speaking in a particular time to a particular group of people, okay? So something tiny becoming something massive. Now, we're all used to that. We've got a few small people here at the front, and the parents in the room, you will remember seeing as your children grow up, you get to that point and you go, how did I used to carry that tiny thing in my hands? Those of you that are gardeners, that grow things, you're used to growing something from something small into something big. We've got some stuff in our garden, haven't we, Ariel? What plants have we got at the moment? What plant did you get that grows some things, some fruit on it? A strawberry plant, yeah, and that's already grown this year, hasn't it? It's gone from something smaller to something bigger. We're quite used to that. There's nothing out of the ordinary about that. There's nothing hugely surprising about it. But Jesus was speaking to a group of 12 disciples. At this time, he had a group of followers, a small group of followers in some unimpressive, unimportant area under Roman occupation somewhere in the world. And the surprising thing he says is that God's kingdom is going to get so big that other people, that other tribes will come and find their home in him and in this kingdom. They will be like birds coming to perch in the massive tree branches of God's kingdom. So when we might look at something that God is doing that looks small or looks unimpressive, Jesus is speaking exactly into those situations. Sometimes what God is doing can look very small. We might look at ourselves as a church and think we're not very big. You might look at yourselves and think there is nothing important or impressive. You might look at your lives and feel like you're not making any difference. Perhaps you're praying for somebody and seeing no change. Perhaps you're trying to show kindness to someone and it doesn't seem to be noticed. Perhaps you're trying to follow Jesus, but you don't feel particularly strong at doing that. Jesus says, don't despise small beginnings. God can take something small and tiny and grow it into something which gives life and shelter and hope to others. As Debbie mentioned last week about the fruits of the Spirit, growing them and nurturing them and allowing God to continue that work over time. Don't underestimate what God can grow. Now, our second parable, do we have someone, they're not here today, do we have someone in our church who likes to make bread? Yes, we do. Amy's not here today, is she? I do believe we have John as well, who is getting into his sourdough and making it. I did have to change this picture this morning because I realized that I had put on there some piece of sourdough, which of course doesn't have any yeast in it, which wouldn't make any sense for this parable of Jesus. So I had to change the picture. But this one is all about bread. Hands up, who likes bread? Yeah, bread. We all like bread. Good. In this one, 30 kilograms of flour. 30 kilograms of flour. That is an enormous amount or flour. This woman who is making this bread is clearly not making this bread for herself. She is making enough bread to feed the whole community. And she mixes the yeast into it, okay? This is one of the ingredients. And once the yeast has been worked into the dough, you can't easily see it anymore, can you? But you can see its effects on the bread. You can't easily see it working, but it begins to change the whole mixture that it's a part of. The surprise here is not that the yeast changes the dough into yeast. It doesn't do that, does it? The surprise is that it is mixed into the dough and changes it from within. In the same way, Jesus sends us into the world. He doesn't call us to hide away from our neighbors or our friends or our schools or our workplaces or our family. He calls us to be mixed in, to be present, to be loving, to be faithful, to be different. We may sometimes feel, again, unnoticed, but hidden doesn't necessarily mean inactive. God may be working through you in ways that you can't yet see. How are you allowing him to do that? Again, as Debbie shared last week, that focus on those fruits of the Spirit working out like yeast in dough. How are you allowing God to do that in your life? So this one, we're going to take a momentary pause for the children, okay? So, for the children, I have hidden 4 of these tiny Jesuses around the building this morning, okay? You don't have to open anything. You don't have to go into any other rooms. You don't have to go out of the building. You might have to use your eyes, okay? Children, you need to go and find those 4 tiny Jesuses for me, okay? That's your task. Adults, whilst they are doing that, why don't you sit and chat to the person next to you or around you if you feel comfortable doing that. If you don't feel comfortable, just give them a blank, just give them stare straight ahead and sit with this yourself in silence. That's absolutely fine. And think about these questions. What has stood out to you so far from these parables? What is surprising you? And where have you seen God working through something small or apparently unnoticed? Why don't you chat to the person around you? If you want to just think about it yourself, that's fine. And our children are going to look for these tiny Jesuses. We need 4 of them, guys. We need 4 of them. Adults, you can chat. No adults have tiny Jesuses on them, okay? You don't have to go and ask anyone else. You might at some point need to ask an adult to help you.
Can you help me?
No, once you found it, I can help you. I'm of course hoping that no child has found them earlier in the service and run off with them, but we'll assume there's still 2 more to find. Oh, has Raph found one? We've got 3. Did he find the one at the back? Okay. Adults, you keep chatting. The countdown is on. The children have only got 1 more to find. So you've got to get your conversations in. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You found it! You found it. Right, our children have found our baby Jesuses, our tiny Jesuses. Why don't you give them a round of applause? Thank you. And children, our adults have sat uncomfortably having a conversation whilst you've been finding those, okay? Why don't you give them a round of applause? Give them a round of applause for having a chat. Can you look after them for me? Excellent. You're putting the tiny Jesuses up there. Thank you. So our final two parables, okay? So we've got two more. Our final two stories are about discovering something extraordinarily valuable, okay? A man finds treasure in a field. Let's go back to that one. He finds it. It's like kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in the field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. He finds it, then, little bit cheeky, he buries it, doesn't tell the owner that there is treasure in the field, and then he goes and buys that field so that he's got the treasure. It's a little bit cheeky, isn't it? We're not going to go into the depths of what Jesus is saying about buying property and the moral code there. I don't think that's his point. I'm not sure that that's the example we should be following. But this isn't about the buying property. This is about the man's joy. He's found something so valuable that everything else suddenly appears different. So, some treasure this morning. I did say the S word earlier. There's some treasure here for children. There's only one child up here now, so I think Lani's going to look at treasure. Look, we've got some treasure. Should we have some of this later? Yeah. That was a definite nod of the head. There's some treasure here for children, some sweets, okay? So, what would you give me? What would you give me for these sweets? Would you give me your shoes? No. Would you give me your favorite toy? No. You'd give me $100? Sold. I will do that. Lots of money. Would you give me your house? Oh, you're thinking about it. That's slightly. Yeah? No? Okay. Oh, you're going to give me that. Oh, thank you so much. Right, you keep hold of this. We'll do a transaction in a minute, okay? Excellent. Oh, you'll give me a present instead. Thank you. Right, you're going to get some treasure in a moment, children, okay? And any adults if they want it as well. But the man sells everything he has, okay, to get the treasure in the field. That is how much it is worth. But what's also surprising is that the man wasn't looking for treasure. He's probably out in the field, probably looking to plant crops or whatever it is. He wasn't looking for the treasure found him. Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is such great value that when this man discovers it, he joyfully gives everything to receive it, not reluctantly. I wonder, as you think about your journey of faith, how often has God found you? Following Jesus can be costly. He calls us to give him our whole lives. But Jesus isn't trying to take something wonderful away from us. He is offering us a greater treasure. Forgiveness and freedom and hope and life with God. A new family and our true purpose in life. In what ways has God found you in your life? In what ways has God surprised you by turning up as you look back over your life? Ways that you weren't even looking for. A number of months ago, we've had this conversation in our house that one of my T-shirts has gone missing. And we've got to the stage where sometimes they end up in my son's room because we're starting to mix up which ones are going in different rooms. And I've been thinking about this T-shirt and going like, I don't know where it is. Haven't been able to look for it. I gave up looking for it. And then this morning, I came into church, and in the lost property, my T-shirt was in there. I've been looking for this for about a year. Don't ask me how it ended up in there. I have no idea. And I wasn't even looking for it, but it found me this morning, okay? What ways has God surprised you in your walk with life? What ways has he turned up in those moments? Maybe now is a point where you are hoping that he will turn up. Look back on those ways that he has found you before. In parable 4, we have a very fancy man, a merchant, and he is looking for fine pearls. Has anyone got any pearls? Anyone own any fancy pearls? Yeah, Karen. Yeah, I thought you would, Karen. Of course you would. You like pearls? Yeah? You do, don't you? Excellent. Well, this man is looking for fine pearls, and that is what he is looking for. And he finds one. He finds one pearl, but instead of continuing to look for more, his search has come to an end. He goes and sells everything to buy this one pearl. Now, pearls in this culture that Jesus is talking to him were revered, more like gold nowadays, much more revered. Or in our household at the moment, Ezekiel, football cards. That's probably what's most revered in our household, isn't it? That's probably the greatest treasure. That's what we could relate to. Maybe for you, it's tea or coffee or just a good sleep or a nap, maybe. Is that the best thing right now? But they were so revered in this culture that they would, so fancy that the rich would take pearls, they would dissolve them in vinegar, and then they would add it to their wine and then drink it. So that they would literally be consuming the pearls because they were so sought after. The pearl, of course, that Jesus is talking about is the kingdom of heaven. He's talking about him and the kingdom of heaven. So our children have found their precious Jesuses this morning, the precious tiny Jesuses. So you can have your treasure. You can have your treasure if you want to come and look for some treasure and have some here. Good job. Excellent. You go and take some more. And if there are any other children who need some treasure and they need to come up, ask for adults' permission first. And if there's any left, adults, you can have some treasure as well, okay? Where are you being surprised by the kingdom of heaven? Where are you being surprised by the kingdom of heaven? Perhaps this morning you need to be reminded that God can grow something large from something very small. Perhaps you need to trust that God is working quietly even when you can't see much happening. Perhaps God has found you unexpectedly. Or perhaps you've been searching and Jesus is showing you that he is the treasure for which you have been looking in life. In these parables, God is doing something new and surprising. Yet it's the same thing that he has always done. God is growing and working, seeking and welcoming, and God is inviting. He invites us to receive the gift of his kingdom, to trust him with our small beginnings, to allow his life to work through every part of us, and to recognize that Jesus is worth more than everything else. And so we're going to respond to that invitation this morning. We're going to move into a time of sharing communion together. And I'm going to invite the children to come back up. They're going to help us this morning give out communion to one another. But communion is also wonderfully surprising. God takes something as ordinary and as small as bread and wine and uses it to speak to us of his greatest gift. Jesus took bread and said, "This is my body given for you." And he took wine and said, "This is my blood poured out for you." The kingdom of heaven is like yeast working its way through a great quantity of dough. And now this morning we receive bread, remembering that Jesus gave his whole self for us. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure in a field. It's like a pearl of great value. And now as we receive the bread and wine, we remember that Jesus is our treasure. But the cross also tells us that astonishingly, we are also treasured by him. He gives himself for us because he loves us. The kingdom of heaven may begin like a tiny seed. It may work quietly like yeast. It may be discovered unexpectedly like hidden treasure. It may be found after years of searching like a precious pearl. However we have come, the invitation is the same. Come to Jesus, receive his gift, and welcome the surprising kingdom of heaven.